So the last area we're going to look at for main residence is the letting exemption. So this is where you've not lived in your property and you're renting it out. Remember, this is different to rent a room. Rent a room is when you still live there and you rent out a room, so that comes under property income. This is where you've had your property, you've decided that you're not going to live there and you're going to let somebody else live in it. So this is some additional relief in addition to what we've just done. So you claim your main residence relief. If you've still got a gain, then you start looking at the letting relief. Now, the letting relief works out as the lower of the gain that you've got left after the PPR relief. That's your main residence. And 40,000, because that's the absolute most you can get, and then the PPR relief or the main residence relief that you've already given. Sounds quite complicated, but it isn't as bad as what it looks. Let's have a little look at example 14.8. So Mr. Manning buys his house on the 1st of April 89. This is his occupation, and then he sells it, and we've got the gain already of 194,800. So we're trying to work out what proportion of that gain is going to be chargeable. So let's start with that as a starting point. So the first thing I want to do is work out his PPR relief. So it's going to be a gain multiplied by his period of occupation over his ownership period. So just like we've done with all the other examples. So if we have a look at what he's done in the house then, so he lives in the house, then he travels the world, he comes back and lives there again, and then he decides to leave the house empty. So I'm going to do similar to the last question. I'm going to draw this out on a timeline. You don't have to do this in the exam. I'm just trying to do something a bit more visual so you can get your head around what it is you're trying to do. So similar to the other question, I'm going to start with when did I buy it and when did I sell it? And I'm going to work out the ownership period. So the ownership period that we've got here is 1st of April 89 to 31st of March 20. And that comes out as 324 months. Like quite a long period of time, isn't it? We've got sort of 30 odd years that he's got this house. Now let's fill in what he does then. So from 89 to 91, he lives in the house. So that's his actual occupation. Then he decides to travel the world, and that is until the 30th of September 96. So he travels. Comes back and he lives in the house, and that's till March 05. So that's some more actual occupation. And then he leaves the house empty, and that's it. So he never ever comes back to it. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is we want to work out of the whole ownership period, what actual occupation has he got. So he's got from the 1st of April 89 until the 31st of March 91. And if we add up those months, that gives me, what have we got? 89, 90, 90, it's 24 months, isn't it? 24 months. Then he's got another period, which is the 1st of October, what have we got? 1st of October 96 until 31st of March 05. So 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 8 years and 6 months, isn't it? 8 years and 6 months. And that gives me 102 months in total. And then don't forget, we always get the last 18 months. Okay, so that's my actual occupation. So that would be this period plus this period, and then the automatic 18 months when he was absent. It's just a rule that they allow you. Next, we want to look at the deemed occupation. Now, he's only going to have one deemed occupation, and that's because he never ever came back to the property in this period. So this will be deemed when he was travelling abroad, it can come under the heading of absent for any reason, but we can see there that he was absent for more than 3 years. So he's only going to get the maximum 36 months. Okay, he's not going to get the whole period. Okay, right, let's have a look then. So occupied 24 and 102 months. Plus he's got the 18 months at the end, and then he's absent for any reason when he went travelling. So occupied, we're going to class as 180 months. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say of the ownership period of 324 months, 180 of them are going to be exempt. So 194,800 times by 180 over 372 gives me a reduction of 94,258. That's similar to what we've done with all the other questions. Now, we haven't done anything else with the questions because in the period that it's empty, we haven't let the house out. But we have in this question, it says, Mr. Manning, on the 1st of October to March 05, oh, sorry, one before, 1st of April 91 to September 96, he left the house to travel and he lets the house out. So that's what's giving us this letting relief. It's not here because it just says he leaves the house empty. So it's that period of time that gives us the letting relief. So letting relief, he's going to be entitled to. What are the rules? The gain for the letting period not covered by PPR, 40,000 or the PPR relief already given. Okay, so let's write it down. It's the lower of those three things. All right, well, we can fill in the second one, can't we? The 40,000. Right, we know what that is. That's a limit. That's the most he's ever going to get. So the gain is bigger than that, so he's always going to get charged. Let's look at the other options then. So the gain for the letting period not covered by PPR relief. That's probably the hardest one to do, so we'll leave that to last. Number 3, the PPR relief already given, all right, i.e. this, yeah, what we've already had. So 94,258. Now we know it's not going to be that because the 40 is already lower. So the hardest one to work out is the period that is still being charged for letting. Now what we have to do for that then is we have to look at this time when he was travelling and say, well, okay, during that travelling period, how many months of that are still being taxed? So let's do a calculation. So letting period. So he let it out from what have we got? The 1st of April 91 to the 30th of September 96. All right, so we need to work out what that letting period is. So April 91 to 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, that's 5 years. And then we've got April, May, June, July, August, September, 6 months. Okay. That equivalent amount in months is 5/12 plus 6. That comes out 66 months. Now, I can't claim for all of that because I've already been given 36 of that period exempt, right? Fully exempt, haven't I, for travelling for any reason? So I can't have it twice. So let's take off the 36, and that gives me a balance of 30 months. So that's telling me I can claim for 30 months of letting over the overall life of the ownership period. So 30 months out of 372. Okay, we're using the same ownership of what we've got here of the original gain. So you're still using the same gain because that's what you're trying to pro rata. And that gives me a figure of 15,710, which does happen to be the lower figure. Okay, so I'm going to reduce the gain by that amount, and that gives me a final gain to be taxed of 84,832. Which of course we'd still get the annual exemption, any losses brought forward that we might be entitled to. Okay, so let's recap. We start off with a gain, how much we've got. If the house is completely occupied by the main resident all of the time, that's the end of it, it's exempt. If the person's moved out the house, then we're going to get main residence or principal private residence, whatever you want to call it. In order to do that, look at how long you've owned the property and then say, right, when did I physically live there? Add up the months, and then I'm going to get the last 18 months if you weren't living there. Obviously, if you were living there, you're not going to get it in addition, you're not going to get it twice. Then, do I have any deemed occupation? So when I wasn't there, can I claim it as travelling for any reason for up to 36 months or working in the UK or abroad? So here we just got the 36 months when he travelled. Reduce your gain by that proportion of the ownership, and then look at letting relief if when it was empty, when you weren't there, you rented it out. If you never rented it out, then you're not going to get the relief. So it's the lower of the proportion of the gain that's still being charged due to the letting period, 40,000, or what you've already claimed up here for PPR. Reduce your gain, and that gives you your final chargeable amount.